Even people like Samsung and Kyle Caldwell, who are incredible leaders in this industry and in the not-for-profit, just really worried from beginning to end that we can't do that, we're not going to raise that kind of money, and so on. And yet Russ knew. I retired from Ascension Health. Ascension Health was the largest not-for-profit healthcare system in the world. When I retired, we had about 120,000 employees. We had about 100 hospitals or medical centers in 36 states. And when I retired, I said, I need to do two things. I traveled to China. I was on the U.S.-China Council for Business Exchange. I needed to do that, and I had to have a knee replacement. Russ called about I'd say the first 2 or 3 weeks before I retired and said, now, John, I'd like to talk to you about the possibility of coming to do this, and here's what we have to do, and I have to have someone that the not-for-profit people would respect, and I have to have someone that the foundation people, and I have to have someone in the state. If I could get someone with your background because of what you built at Ascension, I'm convinced we can raise the money and then coordinate all the not-for-profits in this state. And he said, would you commit to that? And I said, well, Russ, I really need to do a lot of things. I've got to travel and so on. I said, how about if you talk to me in a year from now? And I said, we'll talk about how you know, what might be possible. I said, can you wait that long? He said, I think we can. He said, I'd like to do it sooner, but I think we can wait that long. Well, interestingly enough, a year from that date, I get a call from Russ Mauvie. And you know how Russ Mauvie is. And he said, now, you promised me that you'd take this role. So I said, no, Russ. I said, we promised we would talk. He said, that's not how I remember it, John. So he said, we're really ready to have you go. We've held everything off. You basically owe us. You need to come to this. And I said, I'm ready, but I said, I just need to sit down and talk with you first about what you're trying to do here and so on. And I said, is it doable, Russ? He said, yes, it is doable. He said, it's going to be hard, he said, but it's doable. He said, what we would like to do is bring all of those groups together, Michigan Community Service Commission, Campus Compact, Volunteer Centers of Michigan, and Michigan Nonprofit Association. We'd like them all under one roof, and we would like them all working together as one. So committed is the state to that. On the Michigan Community Service Commission, they're willing to match $10 million if we can raise the other $10 million. And I said, where are the boards on all of this? You know how possessive we all are in our not-for-profit boards. And he said, they're all willing to do this. He said, now, he said, some of them are willing if they get the right leaders, typical Russ and his recruiting. He said, but they're willing to do it. He said, so you've got two things that you'll have to deal with. One is bringing the groups together. Number two is the raising of the money. So I said, who do you have as part of the team? And he said, well, I've got Michelle English said she'd come in and help. He said, I have Julie Fisher-Cummings. I have Dottie Johnson and Bill Richardson at the Kellogg Foundation. I said, that's a pretty powerful team. And I said, what's my role with that team? He said, well, you're to coordinate the efforts. I said, yes, I'm to herd cats, then, is what it is. So when we started the process, it was absolutely incredible, the response that we received from out there, for two reasons. Number one, I think the community was ready. I think number two is that Michigan had already served as a model. You had Samsung, who was known throughout the country. You had Dottie, who was known throughout the country. You had all of these people involved. Kyle Caldwell was so respected in the Michigan Community Service Commission. All of these people were so well known and so respected at a statewide level. Michigan's really put itself out as a potential model for the whole country if this could be done. And so that was an incredible appeal to the funders. And we really did, and they were so good with it. When we went to Kresge, I said to Russ, I said, Russ, you can't send anyone else. It has to be you and me and perhaps Michelle, but I said, you have to be there. And he said, I don't need to be there. And I said, no, you really do. With Kresge, it's very special because it's a very difficult thing for them. They're moving from a brick and mortar to, you know, programs in the city, and to ask them to do a statewide effort is just, you know, it's just really, it's going to be very difficult. You need to be a part of that call. And he did. He didn't care for it much because he was on his, you know, I've done this and been there. But he was absolutely brilliant on that call. He really was. And you know, John Marshall could ask questions like no other person could, and really make you perspire, almost like a Pete Ellis. But it was really something, the way he responded. Actually, Michelle and I just sat and listened. Russ was so incredible. Then he went to Bill White at Mott. Again, very difficult because Mott's so focused on community, but yet ready to break out and look at a statewide effort. And the case was made in a way, and Bill not only said, we're going to do this, but we're going to help you with other foundations. So that could only be done because of that incredible relationship that they had. It was just unreal. Michelle and I went to Chrysler and Ford, and they both committed $1 million. Russ and I had worked together closely with Randy Reeker. We were on the Star Commonwealth board together and had become very close through the years. So Russ said, you know, I don't need to go to that one. You know her as well as I, so that's the one you go to. So I had brought Sam and Kyle, who she respected very much, and so on. And this was a big move. And Randy let us know that because Midland said, you know, we're not state. We're not statewide. That's not been our posture in the past and so on. We have a lot that we do here. But the case, I think, was made, and unfortunately, and Randy has said this in the past, unfortunately, it was on the day of 9/11. And so it was a very stressful and difficult time. They had all their board in there from New York, and some of them had family members involved and so on. I then said to Randy, why don't we cancel this? We'll come back. Kyle and Sam and I can come back. That's not an issue. She said, no, let's get this done. I don't know what we're going to be able to do. I don't think any of our people are going to be able to fly back. We just may have to interrupt the meeting to make sure, if we hear from family members, to make sure all of our family members are okay. And Randy said to me, it was very interesting because she said, in many ways, we thought, this might be the end of the world. Why don't we just give them the $1 million because we may not have any more money? It wasn't that way. It was more than that, but it was the way of just what was happening and so on. So that was a very interesting story. And another one was Chrysler and Ford, because we had to make sure when Michelle and I were going in, and I said, Michelle, I drive a Ford. I'll drive my car when we go visit the Ford Foundation. But we have to figure out for Chrysler, we have to get a Chrysler to drive a Chrysler. I said, we're not going to go ask for $1 million and drive a competitor's car into the, so you had all that inside stuff and so on. And she was absolutely incredible. She was really something.